In today's Behind the Scenes, I'm here with John Kopec, and John agreed to share a story from a shoot in St. Lucia. Probably the most beautiful place, riddled with anxiety.
Right. I remember having the feeling, and I remember telling Joe while we were there that this is the most stressful I had ever been in my life, mixed with the most beauty I had ever been in my life. And it was
Isn't that crazy?
an insane like
Ironic.
yin and yang of stuff. But yeah, and let me just give a quick preface to the story.
Yeah.
This is like being very transparent, and there's a lot of mistakes that were made. Hopefully this will be a cautionary tale.
Yeah, of course. Most of these shows, and I thank you that you said that, because a lot of these shows that you listen to, it's all, hey, come buy a drone, it's awesome. This is all like bad things never happen. They do happen, and they're part of your story.
I would say on my shoots, more like with drones, especially like you're more prone to stuff going wrong than a traditional, just because like you're talking about a flying blender.
Yeah.
So things can go wrong.
It's like the modern cars versus the old cars. And like more can go wrong because you do have a more technology. I think it's important to share the successes and share the things that could have gone a little bit differently, especially since like a long time has passed and no one can really hold that against you.
Right. Well,
and it's important that you remember it, because those were few lessons, and those are the lessons that people listening to this will probably be learning, sooner than later. Might as well make it easier.
Well, so with that being said, let me tell you of kind of what not to do. No, I think we did a great job, but it was Joe and I had been doing aerials, and we had been doing jobs with the Zen Muse. Before this, we had been doing jobs with the S800, and he's a great pilot, and I think I'm a pretty good camera operator. Staying busy doing stuff, but we always knew we want to build a heavy lift, right? And this is before any sort of out of the box, before any Altas were out. This is a while ago, and we were building a heavy lift, and the Movi had just come out, the M10, and we were pretty ecstatic, because here's a great gimbal that provided really great stabilization. Not like an Alex Moss base gimbal. If you know what Alex Moss is, then you probably have 5 years taken off your life.
Yeah, if you know what Alex Moss is, we're sorry.
Yeah. So we were excited. We're like, okay, why don't we build a drone that can lift the M10 with a Red? So that's what we did. We built an M10, or we built a heavy lift, and we were probably pretty close to finishing the drone when we got a call. And the call was, hey guys, we have a job. It's part of a bigger project, doing a video about this resort. Essentially, I was told it's the most luxurious resort on St. Lucia. St. Lucia. So we were excited, but they were like, look, I think it was like 9 days or something, like within 2 weeks. I'm a little fuzzy on all the details, but Joe and I had to finish the heavy lift, test it, and then fly down with the rest of the crew that were all like from the UK. Yeah. And so we took the job, and we're like, we'll just, double time, we'll finish the drone. I mean, it's on paper, it's going to work. So I remember one of the problems is before I had a Red, so we didn't have access to a Red to test it. I remember we were leaving Saturday morning at like 6 a.m. and we got our hands on a Red Friday at like in the morning. I took my friend's Red, or found some guy to let me borrow his Red. Yeah. Joe had finished the drone. We got an M10 and we just put it up. We balanced it, put it up, and I think I still have video of that first test flight, because it was like within 24 hours of us leaving. Wow. And we were just testing, and it worked fine. It was working great. If you got a picture or video, you got to share that with me. I will. I'm going to try to look
through. I can put it in the show notes.
Yeah. And I remember it was hovering, like, we were in a field, like, 10 feet off the ground. Joe was kind of slowly flying it. Yeah. And we were just jumping up in the air. I was high-fiving him. And it was so exhilarating. Yeah. But then we're like, okay, now we have to break everything down, pack everything up into 6 cases, because it was massive. We had bought a bunch of cases with custom foam, so we're like, literally, I don't think and this is not an exaggeration, we never slept that night. Like I think we just like went from the field, we went back to his place, and we were just, doing last minute tweaks. He was doing this, I was working on this. Part of the problem is, this is back in the day before there were long range HD video transmitters.
Oh, you also needed that, right? On the gimbal too,
yeah,
right?
And this is like before Teradek had the 2000 or 600. I mean, this was like the only thing that was out was the Bolt Pro. It was like the very first product that was
Bolt Pro.
Yeah, yep. And I actually had one, but the problem is the Bolt Pro is only good for like 100 feet, whatever, 125 feet realistically.
Because that's all you need on the ground.
It's all you really need on the ground. So we also had an HDMI to RCA converter.
Yeah.
And I remember we were just like packing everything. That's what we're going to do because that was long range. So we're going to monitor everything with standard definition. Yeah. Just dial in settings. And so we didn't sleep. We had to get a carnet. We were driving around, bringing all the gear, showing everyone. It was like such a nightmare. And I remember it's like out of a movie. We're like, we think we're all packed and we're driving. We like get 10 minutes down the road. We have to drive from Connecticut to New York. Yeah. And after 10 minutes, I'm just like kind of thinking mental checklist. I was like, the carnet, we forgot the piece of paper. So we had to turn around. We're like late and we get the paper and we're racing through. Now, I wish I could find out and remember the battery, like the battery size, because that was another thing too. We're getting on a plane and we have to carry on these
the
batteries.
limits on the batteries, and those were big bags.
And we're I'm trying to remember, but they literally look like they were bigger than a brick. Yeah, because they're longer and a little thicker than a brick, and they have two leads. They have a red and black lead.
Great.
And they look like bombs. Yeah, and I think we have. We'd fly 2 sets. And I think we had 4. So we'd each take 2 per carry-on. I think that was what we. Yeah. So we go through the security, and people are like, "What is this?" And like, it's the camera battery. It's for camera equipment. And the guy's like looking at it. He's looking at us, and it's like, all right, because But we had to get the batteries down there. So. Yeah. Fast forward.
At least you didn't check it in. There are people who check these things in.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
I've heard that's dangerous. That's what I would be worried about.
So now, fast forward, we're on the plane, and I remember thinking, like, I'm sitting down, and we take off, we're in the air, and I'm like, okay, we're there. We made the flight. Everything's like we're good. We're going to tropical Caribbean. I remember it was like the winter time too, so we're just gonna be like in a nice house. It's gonna be great. And about 45 minutes into the flight, I remember Joe, we were both in aisle seats next to each other. Yeah. So I look over the aisle and I just like, out of like a dazed nap, I look at Joe, I'm like, Joe, did you bring the standard def transmitter? And he's like, no, I thought you were packing that. I was like, no. I didn't pack, because I was just like going through every little piece of gear. Yeah. And then I was like, oh my God, this is a nightmare. So I'm on the plane. I can't it's only a 2.5 hour flight.
Ask the captain to turn around.
Yeah, right. Yeah, let's turn around. Let's land in Torrington. And so I'm thinking, okay, it's Saturday. The first day on Sunday is technically, they want us to film aerials, but we could push it to Monday and just do scouting.
It's a prep day,
So I was like, okay, this is what's gonna happen. I'm gonna land, talk to the producer, have him push it a day. Yeah. I'm gonna have my brother go get it and fly down to St. Lucia.
Wow.
I'm like, because it is a big job. These guys are coming from the UK. We're on a small island. There's absolutely no options. Yeah. I think part of the problem was it's like an antenna or something. And we landed. We're going in their little village and all these like little markets trying to find the right thing, and we couldn't do it. So my brother was all ready to go. He was like geared up, ready to head out, and we ended up testing the bolt that I had, and it was working. We're like, all right, maybe we just use this, and we just can't fly too. Yeah, we'll just try to be as very close as possible. We'll kind of explain the situation. Yeah. So that's what we did. We thought it was good. Another problem that we ran into was the DP hadn't, and this is another thing too, this is a good thing, is find out what gear they want to fly. We knew they wanted to fly red. I just kind of assumed it'd be like a standard whatever, but they wanted to fly a Cook S4, which is
that's pretty heavy.
It's like a very heavy.
What
prime lens.
Yeah.
I think it was like a 32 or 35 mil.
So they're pushing 3-4 pounds.
No, these were 4 to 5 pounds.
4 to 5 pounds,
and it was So another problem we had right off the bat was the balance. And I remember getting the lens, putting the M10 and the Freefly Movi M10, and it just didn't want to balance. So even with me taping on like ND filters, not using the matte box and. So we were like, all right, I have to take my handlebar for the handheld mode.
Yeah.
I'm going to cut it in half, and we're going to take off the side bars for the mode, and we're going to take those off and replace them with longer carbon fiber.
So you're going to make your own arm extensions.
We're making our own arm extensions in the field here. And Joe had just like,
did it work?
Epoxy. Hold on.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So as I'm balancing this, Joe's in the next room. By the way, we're in the most beautiful villas. I had my own villa. Joe had his own villa. I don't know why. They got each of the crew members their own villa, and everyone had their own pool and the complimentary bottle of rum. And when you wanted to go somewhere, they gave you your own cell phone, and you would call up your like butler who would come in a golf cart and pick you up. So I'd call up, I want to go to my friend Joe's villa, so he'd like bring us.
Yeah,
and Joe had all the gear, so I spent most of the time at his place. But while I was balancing the camera, I remember there was some commotion, and Joe was very upset. And I don't know exactly what happened, but after some tests, he realized that in our custom build, the gauge of wire was not going to, for what we were pulling, it was just not sufficient for what.
To pull the amps to
and it was just gonna like melt because he had already seen some melting. And from the test, and he's like, if we fly this over the beach for like hours, like this is not gonna be good. Something's gonna short out. And so he realized right then and there in the middle of paradise, he's like, I'm gonna have to go through. And Joe had brought a lot of stuff, so he's like, I'm gonna have to go through, take all the heavy gauge wire and rewire the whole drone.
Wow, dude.
So now he's working on that. I'm in the other room next, like with a hacksaw, trying to work the gimbal. And I told them we pushed it off a day.
Yeah.
And it was just absolutely surreal. We'd take occasional like 5-minute breaks, and we'd go in like the hot tub pool, and we'd just be like, kind of, no one said a word, just looking at the beautiful. Like, okay, let's go back, and then we just keep working.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
that's sad. It's not even, I mean, it's laugh now, but I'm sure
we can laugh now.
Like,
but
wow.
I remember we were shooting on Monday morning.
So you had the gimbal detail, and Joe had to
exactly. I was in the living room with all the gear, and he was in the back room.
Where did he have like extra thicker wire with him?
He was like taking wire from other stuff, but he had brought a lot of
the golf carts around, and
that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, that's not. I'm sure they're good.
But so the net is we essentially did another all-nighter that night, and we were just exhausted, and we worked the whole next day, and we managed to. It's pretty impressive. We managed to modify a Freefly M15 on an island where there is no Radio Shack, right? There's nothing. And we managed to also rewire a whole drone with a thicker gauge wire.
Yeah.
And Monday morning, 9 a.m., I think it was an 8 a.m. call.
Yeah.
We were down there by like 7:30 just setting stuff up, and we launched it, and
it worked?
It worked.
Oh
now, there
God.
was... there's so many parts of this trip that I could go to, but what was really funny was one time, our first shot on Monday morning, we had the pool. We were filming the pool scene. Yeah. It was empty from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Yeah.
And we had to be out of the pool at 9 a.m. Yeah. And because from 9 a.m. to like 11 a.m., it was reserved for a photo shoot with Kate Upton.
Yeah.
So so it was like, okay, we'll try to be out of there before then. I remember, so we, right before 9, we grabbed all the gear, and we're done. We move.
Yeah.
And I had left. I was taking multiple trips, and after like a couple minutes, I realized, the empty case that the monitor, I left it at the pool. So I went to the pool, and I saw the case. So I grabbed the empty case, and I looked at the other end of the pool, and I remember the photographer like kind of looked up because I was in the background. He like looked up and kind of gave me like a like, hey, you're in my shot. And then Kate Upton looked around, looked at me, and the whole crew, like the whole photography
like,
crew. Yeah, I'm like,
hi.
Sorry, I'll be right out. That was fun.
Were you guys able to get all the shots that you needed? Were you able to keep close enough with the HD transmitter? Or
luckily, on an island like that, there's not a lot of interference, a lot of other signals. So we were pretty surprised at how far the bolt went, and it turned out to be, I think, a pretty successul.
Cool. So you got
job.
what you needed. That's the important thing. But did you grow older by like 3 years in there one day, or?
I mean, I guess looking back, makes for a good story and a good experience in life. But I remember at the time thinking, I don't want this.
You know what they say: you either have a great experience or a great story to tell.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's what I do remember the heavy lifters being such a pain, but I don't remember that being such that pain.
Yeah,
it's like early times when back then.
There was one part because of our modification to the Free Fly M15 or M10. We had a couple inches come out the back of the gimbal. Yeah. And obviously we hadn't done a lot of testing and stuff. So Joe, we finished a shot, and Joe, as it was coming back, he brought down the landing gear. Yeah. And the camera wasn't like perfect. It's a drone, right? So it was turned a little bit. And as Joe is turning his nose around, I wasn't touching the gimbal, so the
gimbal kept heading.
It kept hitting the landing gear, and it was freaking out the drone. All of a sudden, we're bringing it back, and the drone's like going 45, and we're like, oh my gosh! I'm like running out, into the water because I had my shoes off. I was like ready to catch it. This is before the accident, so otherwise, I was like, oh my god, no! Not that I could have done anything.
Drone catching.
I know it's a hobby of mine. But we figured out the problem, and we're like, okay, note to self, we don't bring down the landing gear.
That just goes to tell you, it's think about it today. It's like you would probably bring the Inspire 2 with the X7 any day of the week for a shoot like that, especially if you're going on an island. It's all packaged there for you. It doesn't travel in 5 different cases. You don't have to rebuild the whole thing just to make it work. So, and this, what was it, 4 years ago, 3 years ago you guys did this job? It wasn't that long ago.
It was over 3, so it was probably like at least 4 years ago maybe.
And all that stuff you had to go through that you really don't right now. That's my hats off to you, the early pioneers, by the way. That's a nerve wrecker. You know what, the heavy lifters, I think they're cool, like for the story and for the looks, but it's not really that pleasurable to be working with them still. It's just so much setting up. That's a
good way to put it. It's not from a crew perspective, it's not pleasurable.
It's not easy. Yeah.
And it's
but we should talk about it in a separate segment. But
we can talk about
in a gear segment when it's appropriate, and what are some other things to consider, and whether it's even worth the trouble. All right, thank you for sharing this. I really appreciate it, and we will be right back after this.